Welcome back to the You Not Me podcast. This is the fourth episode in our 5-part series called Launch Well, which is all about how young people can do just that and launch well into adulthood. Today's episode is going to center on work and finding purpose and meaning in your work. Most people will spend around 90,000 hours of their lives working. The real question isn't just what job you'll get, it's more who you'll become while you do your job. Generation Z has more options, more tools, and more ways to create value than any other generation before it. And yet so many young people feel like they're lacking direction, they're disengaged, and quietly they feel unsure if any of it even matters at all. Work was never just about a paycheck for most people. It's actually one of the main ways that you build character, develop discipline, serve people, and even find out what you were made to do in life. So today, one of the big ideas that we're going to explore is that work isn't just how you make a living, it's actually how you build a life and bless other people. Andrew and Chris, welcome in today.
Thanks. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Jared.
So talent is one of those things that most people kind of presume on when they're in the job search process, in a recruitment phase. It's one of the flashier things and the things that people immediately go to when they're trying to figure out how to land a new job or even evaluate potential talent. But work ethic, character, and purpose are actually what end up getting you trusted, promoted, and fulfilled. Doesn't really matter if you're flipping burgers or if you're running a Fortune 500 company, the standard is always going to be the same. You have to do honest work, you have to get better, and you have to make things better for the people around you. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 things that separate people from others. And those people build something meaningful through work ethic, growth, communication, money, and purpose. So, guys, just to open talking about work ethic, we really define it as who you are when no one's checking in on you. That's who you actually are when it comes to your work ethic. What are some of the big points here under work ethic that someone who wants to launch well really needs to make sure they're hitting?
I think a few things come to mind initially are reliability, initiative, follow through. So think about like what kind of person, what kind of teammate are you? When are you the kind of person that if the meeting starts at 8, are you there at 7:59? Are you there at 8:05, 8:06, 8:07? Are they always trying to track you down? Are you somebody who, if you're asked to do a task, are you the one that the team can count on? I saw something the other day on Elon Musk where he doesn't matter what level the executive is. It could be the most senior executive in one of his companies. If they're late to a meeting, they get cut off on the project and they're done. And they may potentially be gone from the company, but at a minimum, they're gone from that project. And so I think it's, when I think about work ethic, there are like 1,000 small things that make up who you are as a person. And are you somebody that your teammates, your manager, your clients, your customers can actually count on?
Yeah, I mean, I tell my boys all the time that showing up on time is just honoring other people and honoring their time. And if someone's sitting there waiting for you, then that's time wasted out of their schedule when you could have been there early to whether it's actually have conversation, small talk, which is one of the things that's missing today is so many people they show up the meeting and they just do work and then they leave versus actually have the conversation that builds relationships and culture in the workplace. And so can you have those, if you get there early, can you make good time, whether it's preparing for the meeting or talking to the people around you to care deeply about them and just get to know them. But I think also too, a lot of it is, whether it's sports or work or whatever, are you diving deeper to learn and grow because of the fact, like, for example, if you're an athlete, do you go and train on your own? And do you, say it's summer and you're waiting for the fall to come along? Are you actually going out and doing trainings on your own, whether it's speed and agility, strength, technical, etc., or are you just waiting for preseason to come along? And that's what really separates the best athletes are the ones that actually spend the extra time. I mean, one of the things, Kobe Bryant, I mean, he has this mentality. He would show up so early, put the work in, and he would be there after. I mean, there are so many examples of that where somebody in the workplace, they truly have a passion for what they're doing, so they're actually doing extra learning. There's a physician I know that when he travels on vacation, he actually reads medical journals because he wants to learn and grow to be as well versed to treat his patients with the best quality care possible. And so work ethic is not the stuff that people see, it's the stuff behind the scenes that you're actually grinding away, trying to become your best and making sure that you're showing up in the best way possible.
I think about the Kobe Bryant example again, and it's one thing that he did really well was he treated practice as if it was the championship.
Mhm.
And so again, it's what standard do you hold yourself to? And when you think about, like, are you one person when you're kind of maybe with people on your team, or think about a different scenario, and are you a second person or another person when it comes time for the actual game, the big presentation with the client and others? I think when I think about work ethic, it's about consistency, and can you hold yourself to a high bar, and deliver in both small and big things.
Yeah, you play how you practice.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's been said, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Mhm.
There was even a coach that I had previously who just kind of talked about this phenomenon that always happens in any kind of fitness and running activity, where if you have 10 runs, it's really common to see people max out on the first rep and the 10th rep.
Mhm.
But what really separates is from reps 2 to 9. Are you doing those at the same clip that you're doing reps 1 to 10? Even my last season as a pro, we had this guy on trial, and he was coming from Atalanta, which is one of the
Mm.
bigger clubs in Italy. And he, young player, had quality, but the mentality just was not there, and the character was not there. And we were doing a number of like shuttle runs, like basically from the end line to the halfway line, and touching all these different lines in between, cutting. And he would routinely miss the line by 5 yards on the far side where the coaches weren't standing. Um, and I just called him out in front of the whole team. And I just said, you're cheating yourself.
Mm.
And if you end up coming here and signing, you're going to be cheating us. And they didn't sign him.
Mm.
And the character was really the big piece. So I think that those things are only going to catch up to you with time. You might think, oh, it doesn't matter. It's just practice, or it's just one run or whatever.
Mhm.
But it really does matter in the long run. So for listeners, think about how you can exceed expectations today, even, expectations other people might put on you. Have a higher standard for yourself, and then try and do one task that's unseen as if everyone was looking at you. Because
Mhm.
it's really easy when the lights are on, boss is looking at you, spouse is looking at you, but who are you behind the scenes? That's really what differentiates people.
Yep.
Second pillar here is learning and growth. The big idea is really that the moment that you become uncoachable, you're going to stop growing. And that's really irrespective of your talent. So, what are some things that will enable you to learn and grow even in spite of having talent?
I mean, humility is one of the biggest things. And I mean, I've heard it said many a times and I've learned this myself is that the older I get, the more I realize I don't know and that I need to keep learning and perspective changes. And what I've learned is that not only have I grown and learned so much, but I have so much more to go. And as I reflect more on who I am, what I do, what I say, how I do things, if I really reflect and try to look at ways, how can I improve and get better? Like, man, I find little ways here and there, and they may not be this astronomical huge leap, but all these little things add up. And I think it's just so important just to be reflective of like, what can I do better? And then also to make sure you ask people questions that, whether it's a mentor or, someone in leadership above you or friends around you is like, hey, how can I get better? Because we have this view of ourselves that often we self-justify. We think we're good. We judge ourselves differently than how we judge other people. A lot of times we judge people more harshly than ourselves, and so we can sometimes start to stagnate because, like, oh, we're good. I do this really well, but man, look at what they do. Holy cow! And instead, it's like, can I be humble and say, okay, I know I make a lot of mistakes still. And am I searching and trying to grow, or am I just saying, I'm good with how I am and I'm just going to leave it at that? And I think that's one of the biggest things is how can I continue to look at what I'm doing, critique it, give myself grace, but also hold myself to a standard to keep learning.
Well, and at some point early in life, and a lot of, a lot, I think about myself going through my teenage years. I think most teenagers go through a phase where they think they know everything, and they don't want to be told what to do. They don't want mom and dad or others kind of providing feedback. And then at some point you realize, okay, I really don't know anything.
Mhm.
I have a lot to learn. And I realize now that I'm in my 50s, I realize I still have a lot to learn. But it's that willingness to take criticism and feedback, and recognizing that whatever environment you're in, if you're on a team, if you're working for a company, if you are, I mean, think about your family. And I know that I have a number I have 3 kids, and one of them is home this summer. And it's very different when you're not living in a place, and then you come back home. Standards are different. And I think that it's important that when you think about learning and growth, it's okay, what is the standard where I'm at? And how can I respect the people that I work with, the coaches that are leading the team that I'm on, the teammates that I have? How do I rise to the standard that's expected, and not hear criticism as a personal attack, but more of correction to kind of help you to move in the right path. And I think that that's where I felt like I learned a lot in my life once I realized, okay, feedback is really good. It still stings. I mean, I think we can all be honest that even if you ask for feedback and you want feedback, it still stings when somebody gives it to you. But now I know that I need it because I know that I'm not going to get better unless I have that. And if when you think about a young adult and launching well, it's recognizing that important point that somebody giving you feedback, it's not a personal attack. It's really helping you to course correct and help you to rise to what's expected.
Yeah, I had one of my three college coaches give me feedback going into my senior year. And this was after a year where I'd gone from being in the starting lineup to being on the far end of the bench. And he gave me a lot of pointed critique and things that I needed to change about my game. And I was just like, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I know way better than him in terms of, how I am as a player, what parts of my game are good and I need to work on, or even like what constitutes good soccer in the first place. Um, and so my playing time went down even more my senior year because I just completely blew off what he had to say in pride. So what you mentioned, Chris, of, having the humility to even ask for feedback in the first place, realize you don't know it all, but then even to apply it and say, okay, I might not even agree with every single thing that this person's saying, but I'm at least going to take it on board and like evaluate it really
Right.
seriously and not just blow it off and think that I know
Mhm.
better than them.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at Tom Brady, I mean, what was it like six quarterbacks were taken before him in the draft, and I'm sure most people probably have no idea who the other quarterbacks were that were drafted at the same time. Maybe they do, I don't know,
He
but
does.
yeah, yeah, he does, but for sure, I mean,
He's
but
got
his
them all
whole
up on the mirror in his
yeah,
bathroom or
right,
something.
dart bullseyes on each of them. But no, I mean, I think the thing is, that's someone that said, you know what, where I was taking the draft is not going to be my ceiling as far as where I'm going to be. I'm going to remain coachable. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to try every little thing and find every way to be the best that I can. And now, again, sometimes we can take things to an extreme to where it's actually detrimental into some areas of our life. And I know I mean, there are people that they want to be the best person they can at their place of work, and they want to become partner, the first and fastest partner and the youngest partner ever, and then they actually steal time away from their family to be able to then be have that title of the youngest partner ever. And I think in the long run, on whether it's on their deathbed or 60s, 70s, 80s, et cetera, there's regret. And again, the coachability is so key for growth, but also making sure that you have a balance of what am I sacrificing, if anything? And if you're not sacrificing anything from your family, great, but also having that heart and desire to keep wanting to learn and grow and not letting it cause you to be bitter and angry and frustrated because of your lack of growth, or you're impatient because you haven't reached where you are by a certain period of time. So it's important to have everything in a good balance, but also remember that the key is like, how can you keep reading good things, surrounding yourself with people that you look up to, that you hold in high regard, so that you do keep pulling yourself up versus letting
Mhm.
yourself sit and even backslide.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a great action step for people who are wanting to apply this pillar of learning and growth is really just to, again, ask some person that you respect for feedback. And regardless of what that feedback looks like, try to approach it by not starting off by defending yourself or qualifying their feedback in your mind. Start by taking it on board and actually starting to apply it. And that will obviously reap a lot of rewards.
Mhm.
Third pillar here today is communication. The big idea is that the clearer you communicate, the more valuable you become. Why is that, guys? Irrespective of whatever job or field you're in.
I think one of the best sayings that I've heard is the profound is often found in the simple. And the more clear and concise you can be in communication to, like take Tim Keller or some people that are amazing teachers, they can take something very complex and break it down to something very understandable and digestible. And so when you can communicate clearly, concisely, but also I think there's also the danger of there's some people think, well, the more I talk, the more I communicate, the better. And actually that can be terrible. Sometimes you need to actually know just to sit and be silent and listen. I've seen people that come into a brand new company and they just talk, 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 act like they know everything. Then there's some issues that pop up there. But if you can really be clear, concise, and to the point, and if you can actually make sense of something that is really complex, there's such a gift in that. And I think also being able to be a good storyteller is, I mean,
Mhm.
when you tell a story, if you can captivate people and draw them in and help them, let that sit and land even deeper because there was a story attached to it, it's great. I mean, whether it's in writing or speaking, etc.
I remember this one time early in my career, I worked I spent a lot of time on a PowerPoint presentation, and I asked one of my leaders for feedback. This was a person that I was working under. He was my kind of my boss's boss at the time, and I asked him for feedback, and he said, "Hey, it has to be you have to use less words." And I gave him the feedback. I gave him the deck. He returned the deck back to me with some feedback and comments. What ended up what ended up happening is at the end of all of that, I had a slide that just had 4 bullets and about 8 total words on it, and that's what I went in with versus the large presentation that I had put together. Because again, less is more,
Hmm.
and being able to lead and confidently have a conversation is so much more important than what you have on the page. Something else that I think is really important here around communication is strong verbal and written communication skills. There are a lot of clubs, a lot of companies have Toastmasters. There's different types of opportunities where you need to get experience doing public speaking. And if that's not something that you get a lot of exposure to, if you're in school or you're in a job where you don't have that, look for that. Look for opportunities to do that, because the people that can make a bigger impact in their company are people who are confident speakers, who can get in front of a room, command and control an audience, being able to clearly articulate whatever message they're trying to do, but be able to do that in front of a group of people. I can tell you that there are so many people that I talk to that are not able to do that. And then they wonder, hey, why am I an ineffective leader? Or why am I struggling around this? Well, it's just like exercise. You only get better by having practice reps and doing that. And so that's something else that I think is really important. Mm.
Yeah, I think that the easiest way for great ideas to die is just when no one can explain them. There's so many genius people in terms of idea iteration and being creative, but actually being able to take that idea that's in your head and convey it to someone else, or even to, again, Chris, as you mentioned, take the complex and make it really simple, put it at like the fifth grade level. That is real genius. And that's all, again, this principle of communication. It's really taking things that are in your own mind, in your head, that are difficult to understand, and basically digesting them, making them easy to understand for others. Um, I think that even the first, handful of words that come out of your mouth just say so much. When you're put on the spot, when there's an impromptu question that comes your way, how are you responding? Are you able to articulate what you really want to articulate? I was actually talking the other day, since Wyndham Clark just won the U.S. Open in golf, and earlier this year at the Masters, on Wednesday is the annual par three contest. It's an awesome tradition. Spouses are caddying for the players, and kids are hitting tee shots, and it's just so cool. And Wyndham Clark was actually mic'd up, and someone asked him, "Hey, you're, single guy, you don't have any kids, don't have any family. What's it like? Just this awesome family experience." And he goes, "As a single guy, it's a great form of birth control." And it's like, what? Talk about just blowing the communication, like not having any context for the moment, for the viewership, being able to filter things out of your head before they come out of your mouth. So, and there's obviously a real cost to that. Like, he's very disliked at the moment for that and a number of other things that he's done. But communication is going to have a high price. If the wrong thing comes out in the wrong moment, can really derail an entire career. So,
And destroying the his locker at Oakmont probably didn't help either.
yeah, that wasn't a popular move for the golf world either. So, yeah. Moving on to the fourth pillar now, which is just money. And that's really just getting into managing your personal finances. The big idea here is that you're either telling your money where to go, or you're wondering where it went. This is something that you see happen a lot to professional athletes who have these insane $1 million+ salaries annually, and one day the money just dries up because they don't know how to manage it. Give some practical advice to how to handle money, how to approach just being wise in terms of seeing it as a tool and not the end all be all of work.
Well, I think this one is pretty simple from my standpoint. My dad has drilled this into my head since I was little, and I've done my best to drill this into my kids' heads as well. If you don't have the money, you can't buy it. And we live in a society that credit is so readily available. You can get credit. You can buy expensive vacations on credit, and have this mindset that, oh, I saw that so and so went to Italy for a 10-week or a 10-day vacation. I deserve that too, and we'll just put it on credit. And I think starting off, if you don't have the money, don't buy it. I remember when my wife and I got married, we were living in an apartment. We literally had nothing in the apartment. We literally had nothing. We had a TV. And I remember sitting on with our back on the wall. We'd sit on the carpet. Our back was to the wall and we watched TV. And then I remember we bought a card table. And I remember sitting at a card table and I felt like I was like a king. Like, oh my gosh, like we're sitting in the kitchen. This is amazing. But I'm so grateful that we started with that mindset, because that is the biggest issue that people find later in life is debt will completely saddle your ability to be free to make choices. It adds to anxiety. It adds immense amount of stress. And There are, so I just think being disciplined to live within your means, whatever that is. And I'm not suggesting that living within your means is easy, but the inverse, when you don't live within your means, it just adds to so much unnecessary stress.
Yeah, I have a friend that's a chief risk officer for a major corporation, and he has been for a few other like massive companies. And he said right now, car loan defaults are the highest they've ever been. Credit card debt is one of the highest it's ever been. And then he was talking about when he lived in a city, large city, and he would see people's financials come across the desk of where he was, and he said, I remember there was this neighbor that had this really nice house, had like 8 cars, like Lamborghini, Ferrari, etc. And he's just like, wow, that's quite the collection, etc. And then all of a sudden one car was gone, then another car was gone, then another car, then all of a sudden house was for sale. And some people, because they live paycheck to paycheck, they literally are one downturn away from losing everything and their credit being called. Jared, you sent something the other day about all these influencers that are like buying old Lamborghini key fobs and taking pictures of it and going into these super fancy restaurants and ordering an appetizer and taking pictures like they're having this amazing, meal, and it's causing people to compare and then stress and my life's not as good or whatever. And this money thing, there's been data, and granted the numbers moved. This is when it like $75,000. Once you made beyond $75,000, there wasn't really that much of a impact in your true happiness and joy in life. And so I'm sure the numbers, higher than that now with what's happened in the last 5, 6 years. But there is a point of diminishing returns to where once you hit a certain threshold in dollars, it's not going to change anything.
Mhm.
And back to, I mean, we said this before, if you can't just enjoy a simple cup of coffee, sitting at a card table and saying, man, I feel like a king, like this is fantastic. Like, what more do we really need? And does it really give you more joy, or does it actually cause you more stress? Because then you're worried about not only keeping it, but maintaining it and everything else. And instead, can we just be great stewards of what we have and find joy and contentment in the life that we have, the things that we have, but most importantly, why this whole company was even started, in the people that are around us, in
Mhm.
the relationships we have. And, whether you have great friends over and you're making a simple, grilled chicken and something on the barbecue grill, and you're eating dinner, hanging out versus going out to a $500 meal with friends at one of the best steakhouses. The joy after, an hour, the food is still going to do the same thing. It's going to be digested, and it's going to go through your system, but the joy is really spending time with the people.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily all the shiny things around, because yeah, it might have been fun, but the time spent with people is the most important, and money can't do that. And so we need to remember that money is a vehicle to help us pay for the experiences and times and things that we maybe need, but necessarily if we make it the ultimate end all, like how much money do I have? What's the old saying? I've never seen a hearse pulling a U-Haul. You can't take it with you. And so if you're all about getting as much as you can, somebody is going to go to somebody else and you can't take it with you. So might as well invest it and steward it well into other people and other causes, and making sure, like the story about Rob Gronkowski, he never spent any of his salary. The money he lived off was all his endorsements. And some people would think that's crazy. You could have had such a better life, but at the same time, how much do you really need?
Mhm. No, I remember there was another athlete, I can't remember his name, but he talked about that he saved a lot of money because he had fake jewelry. Everybody else was spending millions and millions of dollars on gold jewelry, diamond jewelry, and he bought fake. And he was like, "Hey, I have money, and they don't now." I just know that there are very few people who are very, very wealthy that say that, "Wow, I've made it." Uh, uh, like they're wealthy, and they think that they have a level of happiness and satisfaction
Yeah.
that they didn't have earlier. And then you have people on the other end. I remember my wife telling me a story about, she was on a missions trip and was in a small village, and they went into this home that had a dirt floor, one room, and the person that lived in that home was offering them, I think it was a papaya. It was pretty much all they had. and they were wanting to share that with this group that had come in to visit them. And I just, again, it's living within your means
Mm.
is the key to not letting the materialistic aspects of the world take over.
Yeah, that's the perfect segue into our fifth and final pillar here, which is finding purpose in your work. The main idea is that success will always continue to ask you the question, what can I get? But purpose will always ask, who can I serve?
Mm.
As we mentioned in today's podcast, you can have a job that pays the bills and then some, and it's still going to feel empty at the end of the day. And so what gives work meaning isn't just a title, it's not a salary. At the end of the day, it's the impact that you have on the people around you. So for those people who are listening today, guys, who are either starting to enter the workforce and kind of think about where they want to land, what they want to do, how they want to approach work, or even people who are already in the workforce and just find themselves showing up every day and just feeling like a cog in the wheel.
Yeah.
What are some ways that people can really find purpose in their work?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things that, when I lost everything, what I realized is that because I was feeling like a cog in the wheel, exactly what you said. And I was trying to determine, do I need to change and maybe go back to school, to either dental school, medical school, or what should I do? And then what I realized was actually I just need to change my mindset and my perspective of what I was doing. Instead of being me focused and how can I make more, sell more, etc. How can I just love and care about the person in front of me? And how can I make sure they feel valued, cared for, and that their life is meaningful? And when I changed that mindset and said, hey, I'm going to live for other people, not for myself, it just like opened this whole new world to me. And even with my own family, like how could I love them better? Make sure my wife feels secure and loved, and my kids feel unconditionally loved and deeply valued. And I think the hardest thing is that we look at work as, well, I'm doing it so I can make money, but also while you're there and you're making money, can you care about people and build relationships? So when you show up to work, even if your function isn't great or work is hard, you still love showing up to work, not because
Mhm.
of necessarily the company. I know a lot of people aren't happy with their jobs and they don't feel like their company has any loyalty to them. But can you be a good friend to the person you work next to or work with on projects, et cetera, or your customers? Can you care deeply about them? And when you change that mindset and like you look at the person in front of you and care, and how can I give to them? How can I make them better or more successful? There's so much joy that comes from that, but you have to take that step first to actually do it.
So many people today don't know their neighbors. Like they live in a home. They don't know the people that live on either side of them. They don't know the person that lives across the street. And I think that's the first thing is go meet your neighbors and start to understand kind of who's around you. But when I think about a work setting, a lot of times, and I really challenge myself in this, where I spend a lot of time thinking about, gosh, why does God have me where He has me, and what does that where what is my purpose there? And I realized just through that hey, I can make a big impact on the people around me just by showing up for them and going in an extra 15 minutes and going and sitting down with people that sit on my floor or might be in the cube next to me, or just building relationships and being there for them. There are a lot of people that have zero community, and I didn't realize that. I kind of had blinders on. I didn't realize that, but there are a lot of people that they go to work, and that may be the only social interaction that they have. They may not have family. They may not have close friends, and the impact that you can make in somebody's life by showing up for them, by showing genuine interest in them and being there to support them. You can tell when somebody's having a bad day. You can tell when somebody's having a good day. You can be there to celebrate with them. There are a lot of ways, but again, that's where I had like a light switch type of moment where I realized I wasn't taking that view. I was looking at work and looking at it much more of the, okay, I'm going in, do my job, getting a paycheck. But then I realized, oh my gosh, it's so much more than that. And once I did that, my influence and impact at my company improved. My impact in my job improved because I realized that it's not just about me. It's about kind of working through others and showing up for others.
Yeah, and I mean, and here we are in the midst of the World Cup, which has been absolutely brilliant to watch and so fun. And one of the players for the English national team, Marcus Rashford, he grew up relying on school meals. And when the pandemic hit, and he has all this money, and the UK was going to stop actually providing those meals to those kids, he said, "No, I'm going to. I see the need. I'm going to raise my hand." And he actually financially helped to make sure that those kids were still getting meals. And a lot of life is just looking around at the need around you and seeing it, and then saying, "Here I am. I'm going to go do it."
Hmm.
And send me. And I think so often we wait for somebody to ask us, or we just don't want to do it because it's going to cost us something. And that sacrifice, it may seem like it's gonna be painful or hard, or you don't really feel like it, but once you take that step and do it, oh my gosh, there's so much joy, and it's so
Hmm.
much more fun. And it's just, again, it goes back to, will you take the step to actually sacrifice, care about somebody else, and make the first move? Somebody has to go first. Somebody has to say, "I'm gonna help you." And the same thing with the relationship is, friends aren't just going to start caring about you out of nowhere. Sometimes you have to be the first person to actually step out and say, "Hey, who are you? I want to get to know your story. I want to, come alongside you. I want to invite you to do things." And then all of a sudden they start doing it in return. And so a lot of it is, who's going to take the first step?
Hmm.
And hopefully it's us.
Well, and I think it's recognizing we live in an imperfect world. We work with imperfect people. We all will make mistakes. We will make mistakes that will hurt people's feelings, and we need to own up to that and learn from that. But I think it's recognizing that in your job, yes, there are going to be people that are going to potentially steal your idea and take credit for something you did. There is going to be somebody that is going to, hurt you in some way. You just have to expect that and know that over time, hey, like I have almost 30 years in corporate America, and throughout that time, I'm just telling you, those people that cut those kind of corners, they don't make it very far. Short term, they may get like a short win or something like that because they stole an idea or something. But I think it's recognizing that we live and work in an imperfect world, and that doesn't need to put you on the defense.
Yeah, I think that, Andrew, you mentioned that you can often see if someone's having a good day or a bad day. I think there's even a lot of people who are just really good at hiding things. And there was an awesome post that we did maybe 2023 or 2024. It was actually originally done by Norwich City, which is a soccer club in England. And they posted kind of a still frame photo of two fans who were, friends, season ticket holders. They're there at every game, and it's kind of a video of just like
Hmm.
rolling through the progression of the year, right? So it's starting in the summer in August when the season starts and it's nice, and then you kind of see it getting into the fall. It's getting cloudier and darker. They're there in the winter when it's pouring down rain, and kind of shows them, walking in each game and, "Oh, hey mate, how's it going?" Yeah, they sit down, whatever, cheer. "Oh yeah, see you next week." And then one week, this one guy, he's a bit more social than the other guy, and he reaches out to the guy who's quieter, and he's like, "Hey man, like, how's it going for you?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's not going well. I've got a lot of problems," and so on and so on. And then one week, the guy who's more social doesn't show up. And the whole point of the commercial is that, like, he took his life. And like, you would have thought that the guy who was quiet and who was struggling was going to be the one who would do something like that. But sometimes it's the people who you really have no idea about. And so, even, it's a phenomenal point to say, like, reach out to the people who you can see are struggling, or, who are doing well, and come alongside them and encourage them. There's so many times where, to your point, Andrew, you see something, but you don't actually act on it. You're like, "Ooh, that person's really struggling," but then you don't do anything. So like, what good is that? There's not really any good in that. But even take the initiative to like reach out to people, and like really, again, it comes back to relationship and effort, and like actually getting to know people to see what's really going on under the surface. I think it's especially important for us as men because we have this compulsion to just, spend hours on hours together and go home and wife asks you, "Oh, how's so-and-so doing?" It's kind of a running joke of like, "Oh, I have no idea. We didn't talk about work or, his marriage or anything, it was just, I was hanging out." So,
Mhm.
um, I think it's a great challenge for myself, for anyone to just be more intentional, with time that we spend with other men, other people in our lives, even in the workplace with people that you're not that close with.
And are you being the kind of person that when that example that you just shared, when somebody's struggling, can you be that kind of person that they know that they can reach out to?
Mm.
They may not, yeah, and you may not actually know that they're struggling with that, but are you the kind of genuine person that has instilled confidence and with people around you that, hey, if they're struggling with something or if they need direction, they know that they could come to you and you're not going to give them judgment. Yeah, you're going to give them love and encouragement and support.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Well, thanks for this awesome conversation today, guys. I think very practical for any of the listeners. I definitely took a lot away from this. Um, Great reflections on work and purpose. I think that it's important to remember work isn't just how you earn a living. It's actually one of the main ways in life that will help you build character, develop discipline, serve people, and even at the end of the day, discover what you were made for. Titles will change, salaries will change with inflation and industry shifts. Industries might change, industries might disappear altogether. But at the end of the day, how you work with integrity, humility, excellence, and purpose is what people will remember. So do honest work, keep getting better, make things better for the people around you. That's a career that's worth building. Thanks for listening.